Good morning and welcome to Founders for Schools' latest career webinar. Today we're going to have some career talks from various role models who have got quite diverse stories to tell today, so we're quite interested to hear all the different routes and opportunities that are out today. A little bit about what's going on here. So I work for a charity called Founders for School. My name is Alison McEwen and I am an engagement manager with Founders for School. We work with business volunteers like the lovely ladies we have with us today and connect them with young people so that young people can get an idea of what some of the real world jobs are out there, and so they can expand their understanding of what is possible and get a bit of information about how to get there, if that sounds like an interesting career path for them. We hope by doing this that a young person who's looking to the future are able to make more informed decisions about what's right for you, because there are so many different options out there that you're not always aware of when you're sitting in your classroom and you're studying maths or French or English or whatever. So hopefully this will give you a little bit of inspiration and guidance about what you could possibly do when you begin your journey into the world of work. So a little bit of housekeeping first to the audience. Your audio, video and chat functions have been turned off for safeguarding reasons. However, you can use the question and answer function to ask questions. In fact, we encourage it. Each of the speakers will do a little talk, but then we're open to questions. We are also recording the session, and afterwards it will be posted onto our platform and also onto our YouTube channel, so you're welcome to watch it back to get if there's anything you missed. So today we have with us Fran Griffin, Judith Quin and Louise Cowan. They are going to talk us through their careers. So first of all, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. I think probably the best thing to start with is if you say hello and tell us what your job title is. So maybe start with yourself, Fran.
Hi everyone, I'm Fran Griffin. My job title is a senior strategist at an advertising agency called MullenLowe.
Okay, Judith, what is it you do?
I run my own business called Your Whole Voice, and I describe myself as a vocal confidence specialist and sound healer.
Okay, and Louise, what's your job?
Hi. My most recent job title was head of marketing at eBay. I'm actually having a career break at the moment and about to give birth, so I'm going to be a full-time mum for a few months.
Hardest job there is. Okay, so very diverse job titles there. So what I would like next is we're going to call on each of you one by one, and if you could just talk a little bit about what your job involves. So what do you do on a daily basis, and then a little bit about how you got there. What made you end up in the job that you got to? Because I suspect the jobs that you're in now were not the first jobs that you started off when you started your career journey. And it's always very interesting to find out how you ended up where you currently are. So Louise, since you're on the screen, would you like to go first, please? Tell us about your career path, please.
Okay, well, I'm gonna start right back at the beginning, I think, and go from there. So, I was at school doing GCSEs and had to make some decisions about A levels. So I had no idea what I wanted to do as a career, and picked the subjects that I enjoyed. So that was art and maths. And then I was given an option to do business studies as well. So they were the three A levels that I chose. Once I started that, I found maths A level to be much harder than GCSE. I'd really enjoyed the GCSE, I was very good at it. I found it much harder. I also got some friends that were a bit older than me and perhaps got a bit distracted at that time too, so that didn't help. So I actually ended up dropping maths and only doing 2 A-levels, art and business studies. And at the end of that, I still had no idea what I wanted to do, and I wasn't even sure I wanted to carry on studying, but I did make the decision to keep studying. And I think I came to the conclusion that I needed some independence. I wanted to move away from home and challenge myself. So I did an art foundation at Loughborough University. This is, you have to do an art foundation to do any sort of design degree, and it's a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, quite a full-on course for a year, where you get to sort of try out many different styles and see what you enjoy doing. I absolutely loved this course, really enjoyed it, and really kind of had an affinity with 3D sculpture, that sort of thing. I then had to make the decision. I wanted to continue to study. I wanted to continue to do some form of design. I was perhaps dissuaded by my parents a little bit. And I also wanted to do design with a business element to it, so kind of 50-50, which Loughborough didn't offer. And I loved Loughborough and I loved the friends I'd made there by then. So I looked at the degrees on offer at Loughborough. I was limited because I hadn't continued with my maths A-levels, so by only having 2 A-levels, it definitely limited foundation. That then gave me the sort of springboard into some courses. So I chose to do retail management degree, which is a 4-year degree with 1-year placement. And I actually really enjoyed it. It was a mix of marketing, accounting, the supply chain, entrepreneurship, everything you could possibly think of that you need really to run a business. But this was kind of with a retail angle. So I really enjoyed it. And in my 3rd year, I lived in London for a year and worked at Bosch Power Tools, which was really good fun, actually. It's a brilliant first kind of dip into the world of work. I was working in an office environment. There were probably about 6 or 7 students in total there, so we sort of looked after each other, and we got to move around and work in lots of different parts of the business. So really good kind of taster of what was to come. I worked in the warehouse, I worked on marketing plans, I travelled the country selling professional drills to people. I learned that I can get very, very passionate about power tools, which I never thought possible. And it was great. And I had the safety net of knowing that I was coming back to university. I then came back for my final year at uni, and I think I just appreciated that last year a lot more. I had some friends that had done 3-year degrees, and they were a bit fed up by then and ready to kind of leave the world of study. But there was a group of us that went back having worked, and we were just so excited to be back at uni. We worked so hard because we really wanted to get good degrees, but we also played really hard as well and really made the most of that final year. So all in all, I think it's a brilliant thing to do, and I would definitely recommend it if you get the opportunity. And then after my degree, I still had no idea what I wanted to do. So I went off traveling for a few months with my boyfriend. And it was whilst I was away that a friend of mine who I had lived with at university's older sister was setting up a business and asked if I wanted to join, in which I said, yes, why not? So at the beginning of the following year, we started work on notonthehighstreet.com. So some of you may know of it, some of you may not. It's a marketplace for small businesses selling lots of beautiful, it originally started as gifts, but that they sell all sorts there now. And there were 4 of us in this quite pokey, not very nice office on day 1. And we spent, I think, probably 9 to 10 months getting the website ready to launch and getting all the businesses onto the site. My first role there was sales, which I wasn't good at. I really found it quite hard. I was trying to sell something that didn't even exist yet, and I just found it quite challenging. But because there were just 4 of us, we got involved in everything, and it was a brilliant kind of insight into what it takes to set up a business. And then as the business grew, I started to do more of the marketing and PR, and that's kind of what I finished doing. I then made the decision to move up to Leeds, where my boyfriend, now husband, was living. So it was a good decision. And Asda were just about to launch their first website, non-grocery website. So they invited me to join the team, and I was involved in launching their kind of online proposition, which back then was really exciting. Digital was still very new. We were selling the dream to the kind of the core team that focused on their bricks and mortar offer, their stores. So that was a brilliant experience. And I'd gone from a very small company, startup, to a pretty big business that was owned by a US company. So there I did all sorts. It was a great opportunity for me to work in different teams. I got promoted whilst I was there. Lots of opportunities came my way, and each time a new role appeared, I would sort of say yes to it. And it was a really great opportunity to understand how a bigger retailer works. And in my final role there, I was actually managing what's called white label websites. So these are websites run by external companies that are branded as Asda. And that was like running my own small businesses. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. One of them was a flowers website. So we got to go to Holland and do all the buying of the flowers. We priced them up. We did the marketing for them, the photography. We had to design the website. So it really was like running my own business, but I had the safety net of Asda, the brand, and the money, the kind of investment from Asda to do that. So really great time in Asda. Then I came back down to London and got my role at eBay, which was again kind of different teams. I started out in the trading team, doing something similar to what I'd been doing at Asda. Then I moved around. So I was working in the product development teams, product design, kind of user experience, so perhaps the more techie side. I then did a lot of promotional planning and finished up in the marketing team. And it was when I took the role as head of brand marketing that I kind of really clicked and thought, I really love this. And it was, I wouldn't say I had a huge amount of experience at that time. We were setting up a new team. We were doing something new that we hadn't done before. And you sort of soon realize that actually along the way, everything I've done, you learn on the job. And often a lot of people are learning on the job as they go, and you kind of grow together. And it was really just by saying yes along the way to a lot of these opportunities that I've kind of ended up where I am today, in kind of the marketing area. But I think what's been really helpful for me along the way is that I have worked across many different parts of the business and different teams, which has given me a really good understanding of how a business works and how teams have to come together. No matter what you're doing, different people and different teams have to come together to solve problems, to get whatever the job is done. And when you have a good understanding of different teams and what they're trying to achieve, I think you can work in better and get better results, because you have an understanding and a grasp of what they're trying to achieve versus what you're trying to achieve. So I think that's probably in a nutshell my career to date.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, I think a lot of those brands people obviously will have heard of. So yeah, that's very, I'll come back to some of those things. Maybe now for a very different perspective then, because you run your own business, maybe you, Judith, would you like to give us an overview of what you do?
Sure. And yeah, it is completely different because I am unusual. And I've only just realized how unusual I am in that I have never had a full-time job working for anyone else, ever. My mum and dad were self-employed, so it was normal to me. So I know a lot of people find it like scary to be self-employed, but it's what I grew up in. So the other way in which I am very different to most people, Louise said, she didn't know what she wanted to do. And I've just realized literally in the last few years, and I'm 46 now, that most people had no idea what they wanted to do. Most people don't have a clue. But I knew from the age of 8 what I wanted to do. And by the time I was 14, it was really solidified. And I was going to be an actress. Full stop. end of story. It was my complete vocation. And that has benefits and downsides, particularly when your complete vocation is so unreliable as anything vaguely artistic. But it was all I ever wanted to do. And I think what's really important that I'd love to share with those of you watching, and feel free to ask any questions, is that there were, you know, Louise said her mum and dad were kind of like about the arty stuff. I was lucky, my mum was really supportive. My dad wasn't particularly involved in my life, so but it was the constant things from teachers, careers advisors. Oh, acting. Oh, it's a difficult profession. Oh, it's tough. Or what are you going to do as have a backup career? Have you thought of being a teacher? What about a lawyer? One teacher, and for those younger people who are watching, I don't think teachers would say this these days, but this was 1989 or 1990. And one teacher even said to my mum at a parent-teachers meeting when I was 16, I know Judith wants to be an actress, but she hasn't really got the figure for it, has she? Has she considered the law? She'd make an excellent barrister, and that's like acting. Now, my teacher didn't mean anything by it. What she wanted was me to go into something where I could use my skills, and actually she's right. I know several actors who are also barristers, and where I would have more of an opportunity of actually making a living and earning some money, because the stereotype of starving actors living in bedsits and garrets, I have been there. I have been there. I was 31 living in a one-room bedsit, sharing 3 bathrooms with 12 rooms and doing 5 different temping jobs just to support my acting career. So that, they had my best interests at heart. And so if you are someone who that you've got a real burning passion and you've got a lot of adults around you going, oh, well, just know they're not trying deliberately to take your dreams away from you. But I would always say, if you know you can't live without it, follow your passion. But be prepared for that, life is interesting, challenging, tough. But this is where what I didn't have at that age, because I knew what I wanted. In the school playground, friends are going, oh, you want to be famous? You want to be on telly? And being famous seems to be a career that people want these days, like just famous for being famous, and it's much more possible. But at the time the internet didn't exist, that wasn't possible. And I said, no, I don't want to be famous. I want to make a living as an actor, and I want to play Lady Macbeth at the Royal Shakespeare Company. That was my absolute passion. Now, I haven't done that yet, but I'm also on a break from acting now. So I said, I'm a vocal confidence specialist and sound healer. So how did that happen? It happened by pursuing acting, without regard for any of the grown-ups in my life going, oh, that's difficult. But yes, it is, but it's what I needed to do. And so I went to university, did drama and theatre arts with English. As part of that, I went on exchange to America for a semester, which gave me a real mindset change, because over there it was much more, okay, you want to act? Great. How about this course or this course? Whereas even on my degree course, the very British, oh, well, you want to be an actor? Well, they'll knock that out of you. How about a stage manager? So sometimes that stuff, it gets into your brain. So really having clarity on what I wanted to do kind of got muddled. I went traveling for 2.5 years after university, and came back and was like, right. I came back at 26 and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I said, well, I kind of want to move to New Zealand, or I'm going to be an actor, one or the other. So if I don't get a job in the theatre, I'm going to train to be a teacher and move to New Zealand. And I got a job as a stage manager in a theatre, and I worked straight away in there, and all that did was solidify that I wanted to be an actress. Because I'd be in rehearsals thinking, oh, I could do that. I could do it better than them. Or, which was worse, oh, how are they doing that? Oh, I want to be able to do that. So then I went to drama school, and then I came out, and I've had 20 years as a classically trained professional actor. And no, you haven't heard of me, and no, I've not been on EastEnders or Coronation Street. And I had the career that most actors have, which is doing a lot of handing out flyers on street corners, doing teaching, doing squirting perfume in department stores. Like this was my career path. And occasionally getting an acting job. And if I was lucky, that acting job paid. Because you do so much work for no money to hope that the right agent or casting director comes in and sees you. The bonus of the way I've lived my life as well, though, is I have always, like Louise was saying, said yes to jobs, had that gone out and made my money. So whether that was stacking shelves from 10 at night till 2 in the morning in a supermarket, whether that was working pub jobs, cleaning in hotels, doing office temping. So say my mum and dad ran their own business, so I learned a lot of office skills by going into their business. And I ended up temping, but I've always been a natural healer as well. I've always massaged people since I was a kid and worked with energy and been able to clear headaches was my speciality. Even as a teenager, my friends would come to me and I'd get rid of their headache in minutes. So I trained as a massage therapist to support my acting career. And then I discovered voice vibration sound healing, which I don't have time to go into, but it's a thing. It's like Reiki energy work. And one of my massage clients one day said to me, "Judith, you're an actress." And I said, "Yes, Barbara." She said, "And you do that stuff with sound?" Because no one really understands the sonic meditation or the sound healing. And I said, "Yes, Barbara." She said, "Do you know anyone who could help Bruce? He's got to give a talk to 80 solicitors in a couple of weeks and he hates public speaking." I said, "Yes." And I was thinking of all the people I know. And this is where I invite those of you who are watching this to listen to your intuition, to listen to yourself, to trust your gut feelings. Because it was like my brain was knocking on my skull saying, "You." And so I went, "Me." And then there was that moment of terror. And I was thinking, who am I, this out of work, 30, however old I was at the time, 35-year-old actress, to go and teach this 65-year-old magistrate how to speak to 80 solicitors? But I went with my drama school vocal class folders and lessons, and I was speaking with Bruce, and he was doing his talk, and then I started asking him questions, and we got to it, and I really found what was missing. And what was missing was he was detached from the passion about why he did what he did. He mitigated on international shipping law. I had no knowledge of that. But that was the moment when I went, And then I put it out there to my other massage clients in my newsletter. And one of them is a coach and trainer. And she was like, "Oh, 5 minutes into our session, I didn't know you're a coach." So I'm not. "But you've got a coach." I said, "I don't know what coaching is." And coaching I'd never heard of. So then she said, "But you are doing coaching. The way you're doing this is you are a coach. You're coaching me." I was like, "Okay." So I went and trained and became a coach. And that was when everything came together. So my acting skills for posture, projection, confidence, the massage skills, knowing how people hold stress and the impact of stress on your body, the coaching skills, which is about drawing things out of people and giving you a focus and a goal. And all of that came together to create what I do now, which is run my own business. And I work with individuals. I go into companies and run workshops and presentations and work one-on-one with people to find their voice. And then I also run, and that's the vocal confidence side. And then I also run sound healing retreats to help people release the emotional stuff that we're still holding on to, mostly from our childhood, that stops you from saying yes, that makes you question yourself, that makes you worried about raising your hand in a team meeting or in a classroom and asking a question or sharing an idea. So that is how I now liberate voices to liberate lives, is how I say it. But it's that thing of asking if you know what you want to do, then every time asking yourself, how does this get me one step closer to, and what is stopping me from? Because that's how I got to where I am now, and it keeps evolving and shifting. And I've had a million different temping jobs in between, which is very useful, because I never knew when I was working in an oil and gas company or a hedge fund as a temp on reception that I would actually be going into different companies. So now I know how companies work. So you never know how every little bit of your experience comes together to help you do what you do.
Thank you for that. And now lastly but not leastly, Fran, tell us a little bit about your job. So I suspect you've probably got a little bit more in common with Louise's background, but we will find.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely somewhere in the middle, and I probably could have used some coaching from Judith 10 years ago to help me work out what I wanted to do, because as you'll see, I kind of fell into advertising, which I think a lot of people do. But I'll talk a bit about that, and I'll talk a bit about what my job is and how I got there. So as I said, I work in an agency called MullenLowe, which is, I'm based in London, but it's a global creative ad agency. So there's offices all over the world, and we do work for some of the world's most famous brands. So from Burger King to the NHS here in the UK. So super varied, which makes it, in my opinion, really exciting. And I absolutely love it. As I said, I got into it by accident, but I absolutely love it and would recommend it. I could talk about it for days. And I think one of the things that initially attracted me to the idea of advertising is the fact that the work that you do is seen by millions of people. So on TV, in the cinema, on social media, we've all had that moment where the cinema ads are more interesting than the film themselves. And I thought, wow, that could be interesting. And there's nothing better than seeing something and thinking to yourself, I worked on that, or we did that. But it's not just the claim to fame, which is interesting. You also get a chance to really make a difference. And sometimes that means helping people, which I love. And if you think about the role of advertising, it's quite difficult to define, but I think you could say that it's all about helping people understand why certain things are important and why they should care about certain things or even act in a certain way. And so as a strategist in an agency, my job is to work out what it is about that certain thing that might make people care. Sometimes it's easier than others. So for some brands, it could be clothes or cars or food or drink. And for others, it could be someone's job or even someone's health or their life. And so one day, actually this was a day last week, in the morning I was working out how to sell shampoo in South America, and in the afternoon I was working out how to recruit nurses for the NHS. So it's a big shift in one day, and they're very different scenarios, but it's all part of the same job. And I think, in my opinion, it would be difficult to find that kind of variety elsewhere. But the thing about advertising, which I'm sure is the same as a lot of other careers, is that unless you know someone who's in it, you've probably never heard of it, or you've definitely never considered it for yourself, which was the case for me. When I was at school, I wanted to be a scientist, which is laughable now. I took chemistry at A-level and I was absolutely terrible at it. I loved it, but I was terrible. And that idea went out the window pretty quickly. And my other A-levels were drama and English literature, which for me were much more enjoyable and a little bit easier. So I chose to take English at university simply because I liked it. There was no other real reason at the time beyond pure enjoyment. And so I had no idea what type of job I wanted. And in my first year at university in the summer, I had my first internship at a marketing agency, which again was a pure accident. And it was my job to write articles about new products and launch events and parties for those products. And I absolutely loved it. I worked on brands like cheese strings and Baileys, and I got loads of free stuff, and I met loads of people. So I kind of knew that I was interested from that point in marketing, but that's such a buzzword, and even now you can't really define it. It's so broad. So I honestly didn't have a clue what other agencies did or how to take it further, who to speak to. And then in my final year at university, I got a part-time job while I was studying at a digital marketing agency, which I applied to through the university job board. And I saw marketing in the job description, and to be honest, I wanted to go on holiday, so I needed some money. So I put 2 and 2 together and went for it. And as my exams finished that year, the part-time job turned into a full-time job. And honestly, from there, it snowballed, and 7-ish years later, this is my job now. So I've worked on brands from Botox to Ribena, and I love it. It's a lot of hard work. You need to be driven and organized, I would say, but it's brilliant. And I think at the moment, especially, advertising is really important in keeping brands top of people's minds and also helping brands stay alive. And my personal day-to-day, as I said, is never the same. It's not just the brands that change, but it's the work itself, it's the type of work, it's the type of strategy. And I think one of the best things about strategy is that project by project, you really have to get into the details of what makes people the same or different, or any sort of intricacies that can help you work out what people need and how you can help them. So in the past few months alone, working from home obviously has been very strange, but we've launched loads of new work. We've won some awards, which has been great. And we've even helped people stay safe with messaging around coronavirus, which has been a brilliant experience. So I think I'll finish by saying, obviously, I enjoy it myself, but I would say if you want a challenge that's fast-paced, exciting, really creative, and I might add, you don't need to get into it through a degree. You can get into it through an internship or work experience. Why not try advertising? I'm just selling it now, but why not give it a go? And that's how I got to where I am now.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, for the people who are watching, you can start asking any questions now and I'll feed them back. But I do have some questions for the group, for our speakers. So thank you all very much for your updates. You do have very different careers, and two of you did internships, which there's lots of chat in the career education world about the type of internships that are now available. So that, and you might have found this as well, Judith, with your acting work, and you said you had to do a lot of work for free. I just wanted to just ask some questions to see, when you went for your internship, how did you get onto the internship? Was it paid, or did you have to do it for free? And same with you, Judith, was there, when you were doing some of your acting jobs, how did they come around? What did you have to do to get yourself there? Because that's often what young people sometimes struggle with, that they might have an idea about what they want to do, but they don't know how to get there. So how did you start out? Maybe start with Fran, just since you were the last person.
Sure. So I would say that when I did my internship, doing some quick maths, that's probably about 10, 11, 12 years ago now. So I do think it's a little bit different. But when I did mine, it wasn't paid, but because it was in London, they covered travel and expenses and things like that. And I know that not all companies do that, but I would say if you're going to an internship, to at least ask the question, because a lot of people assume that it's not paid and you have to fork out for all of these things. And I can tell you that had they not covered my travel, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So I would at least ask those questions. And then in terms of how I got it, I contacted a lot of companies directly, but the one that I ended up working at was actually a friend of a very loose connection gave me an email address. So I still had to apply and go through interviews and things like that. But I will say that initial connection was someone who was friends with the family. But I think now, and how I got my follow-on jobs in various sectors, I would say contacting people directly, especially now with LinkedIn, which I wasn't that hot on at the time, is a really good way to go. And I think internships now, a lot of people are very keen to offer them and are probably a little bit more open to offering them and being a bit more flexible with them than they maybe were even 5 years ago. So I hope that answers all the questions. No, I wasn't paid. Yes, I got expenses. And I applied directly or through any connections I could find.
Okay. I'll take that answer and then ask Louise as a two-part question then. So Louise, was your internship part of your university course? Was it organised through there?
Yes, it was. So it was very structured. There were a number of companies that had kind of already had an agreement with Loughborough University, and you could apply to them, so that they would kind of promote the roles through the university. And I think they had a regular kind of annual turnover of students that came from the university, and you absolutely could go and find your own role, but obviously this was easier. So I think I applied for maybe one or two, and one was very formal, kind of assessment centre. One, I think Bosch, was quite informal, just an interview. So that was set up for me. I would say though, eBay in the last few years have started to do work placements, and that will be maybe a 6-month rotation of students that want to work with us, and we will pay for that. And I did have a friend that reached out to me as well last year, who had a friend's daughter wanted to come and experience eBay. So she came in for, I think it was 2 weeks, 1 week, and we just paid expenses. But she came in and met the team and sort of, you know, just got a feel for what it's like, and got to learn a little bit about the marketing team and what we do. I think she was interested in finance as well, so we hooked her up with the finance team. So it's definitely worth asking, and worth kind of seeing who knows who, because people always want to help and are always, you know, happy to support where they can.
And you said that you got your first job with not on the high street. You got that because it was through a friend connection. Is that right?
Yeah, right.
A friend. Or did you approach them?
No, a friend, she approached me. So she'd come to visit her sister, who I was living with at the time. We'd all gone out and got on very well. And as she was kind of putting this business idea together and starting to set up the business, she reached out to me. She emailed me, and I was I don't know, in Central America somewhere, and just telling me a little bit about it, and would I like to go and work for her. And I thought, why not? Because I didn't have any other plans. So I was very, very lucky, and it really was as simple as that. Jobs since then, I've applied, I think Asda I applied for, and then I think eBay I was approached for the role.
Okay. And Judith, you as well, you said you did a lot of work for free.
Yep, that's the acting world.
So how does that come about? Because did you put yourself out there, or did people come to you? How did that work?
No. I mean, gosh, if anyone is out there listening to this wanting to be an actor, and I'm going to give you the harsh reality of it now. There's one thing. So, for example, the Cambridge Shakespeare Festival happens every year. They have about 20 actors. About 2,000 apply, and you know it's unpaid for 2 months.
Okay.
They cover your living expenses, and that's it. So, you know, every job you apply for as an actor, you can expect that, especially as a female, gosh, if you're a white brunette female between the age of about 20 to 27, every job you apply for, you can just assume, even if it's unpaid, that 750 other people exactly like you are applying for that same position, even if it's unpaid. Like, that's just the way it is. I've worked as an agent as well, so I know it, I see it. That's just the truth. So, but it is, the arts have always been like that. If you think about it, it is different. People have always painted or put on performances for the passion of the art, but it is also a business. So there are definitely internships in theatres, not for acting, but there are, you know, if you want to work in the theatre world or the film world or the TV world in other ways, I know that internships do happen. I don't know whether they're paid or not. Again, I think it'll probably vary. I know at school I did work experience, but that was work experience, not an internship. You know, so work experience was not paid, and I did that at the Polka Theatre in Wimbledon. So it would be a matter, as Fran and Louise have said, of writing letters saying, I'm looking for internships. You know, what do you offer? Companies like, you know, the BBC have loads of different possibilities, radio, television, in their film section. So they're always advertised. So public companies have to advertise what they have available and whether it's paid or not. So It really is. Don't be afraid to take the initiative and ask. Like, and it is that thing of having the confidence to share your voice and ask for what you want. And even if you don't know what you want, go and try, so that you get the experience and you can explore and find what's there.
So imagine you were a young person and you were thinking of doing that, because all of you said that there was a stage where you had to approach and do things. What would you recommend that they showcase about themselves for future employers? Because you all have had either lots of jobs or been in the position where you've employed people. So what sort of thing would you recommend that they showcase, so that they're going out there, they've got a better chance of getting picked, basically? Because I don't think it's just acting jobs where there's a high number of applicants for very few posts.
I'd love to share here. So obviously this is part of what I deal with. So it is having clarity on what you want to get out of it. So clarity creates confidence. So by clarity, I mean clarity of thought, because that creates clarity of words. And when you can be clear on, whether it's an internship or a job application, really know what you want from it. Is it the experience that you want? Is it knowledge that you want? Is it that you want a job? But having that clarity of what you want to get from it will really help you then be able to express it clearly in an email, clearly when you're speaking, clearly if it's an interview. So clarity of thought creates clarity of words. And if you know what you want, I mean, one of my books that I wrote is called Stop Shoulding, Start Wanting. And most people go after jobs because they feel they should. Oh, I should do this because, I don't know, my family are all lawyers, so I have to be a lawyer, or my family are all teachers, so I should be a teacher. So know what you want out of it and be clear on that. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay. And what about you, Fran? You spend your life preparing pitches and trying to work out what do people want from products. So do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'll go super specific into advertising and creative industries, because it's a bit easier probably. But I think bearing in mind that in advertising, it's all about being really creative and being able to demonstrate your creativity. And that's even in, as you said, in pitches, in projects, in all of the work that we do, you are ultimately trying to position something in a really creative way. And I think you get quite a unique opportunity if you're trying to get into advertising to do some work on the side to prove your interest in the field. So, for example, when I was a student, I did quite a lot of writing. I did quite a lot of blogs. I don't really know if people still do that, but at the time it was this thing that people did, is write blogs about nothing in particular. Just to prove that you're interested in showing an opinion about something and you're interested in creating things. And especially for the more creative roles within advertising, even things like, for your CV, does it need to just be black and white, or can you show examples of things that you've done in a really visual way to demonstrate that you're interested? And is there anything that, could you look at a product in your kitchen cupboard and show us on paper how you would sell it, and just have a bit of fun with it? It doesn't need to be serious, but you just have to demonstrate that you're passionate and that you're interested. And try and enjoy it. And I think just don't take it too seriously, because people can really tell when the genuine interest is there. And I think if you don't enjoy what you do, you're probably doing the wrong thing. So try and enjoy it, and try and enjoy the process, and use it as an opportunity to prove to people that you think differently in a creative sense. That's what I would say.
Louise, you talked a lot about teamwork when you were doing it. I know that's also something that employers are keen that people can show that they can work effectively in a team. So what sort of things would you be looking out for someone that's leaving school or university and looking for a position?
I mean, Yeah, it's interesting listening to Fran, because I think I'm very much on the flip side, that I would work very closely with the agencies, but I'm kind of the in-house, I'm the brand, working closely with agencies. So it's where we've had success is where we've had good relationships. It's where we've come together. It's where we've shared and made sure that we all have a deep understanding of the business and the customer, to bring that to life. And I think I agree with everything Fran said about what I'd be looking for. I think the industries are incredibly fast-paced and ever-changing, which is something I love and thrive on, and probably why I've always been in the retail space. So I think looking for someone that is really comfortable with that and enjoys regular kind of change and new things happening, and is kind of rides that and thrives on it is really important. Someone that has a confidence and enjoys being with people, particularly in marketing. You are always working across many different teams, internal and external teams. In eBay's case, I was often working with other countries as well. So I think being really kind of comfortable in getting to know people, building rapport with people is really important. And then finding ways to deliver. So an example would be that, kind of using the agency example, if we had a creative idea, we would often have to make it kind of a real and live on, I don't know whether it's TV or banners or in a newspaper, but we often had to do it with really tight timelines. So finding a way to work well with the agencies, with the different teams, to deliver on things as quickly as we could, but in a way that everyone's enjoying it, getting on together, and you feel like you're doing a good job is really important. I think the kind of creativity piece is something that I think people often think of artists and sort of drawing and things, but to Fran's point, like creativity is in your approach, how you do things, you think differently, having the confidence to share if you've got a different idea or a different way of doing something, having the voice to kind of share that is really important. And I think just being yourself. I've interviewed for internships and kind of work placements, and it can be tricky because you don't necessarily have the experience yet. So we're very much looking for how you come across, that you are being yourself, that you are, perhaps it's interests that you have, how you come across, that you're genuinely interested and excited about the role. And actually we've had people come in and say, look, I'm not sure I want to do marketing, but I really want to experience it. There might be different aspects of marketing. Obviously, marketing is incredibly broad and covers many different areas. They might have specific areas they want to learn more about. So being quite open and honest, but being yourself, and I think that gets you a long way if you can be yourself in interviews.
Okay. And do you think for the next little while, I'm going to make the assumption that people will not be doing face-to-face interviews in person, and instead it will be in a forum like this instead. So do you think that will have an impact on how people will have to react differently or present themselves differently, or do you think it makes no difference?
Do you want me to
anyone? I'm open to all.
So I love being in a room with someone. I would always choose that over anything else. I think, we're all sitting here now. I think you can still get your personality across. I think if it is one-to-one, you can still at least look at each other. And I think it's harder on a telephone where you can't see that person. I know I struggle with that. I really do. I struggle to kind of engage as much. I think when you can do it over a video conference, I do think it's much easier, and it's not that far removed from being in a room together and chatting. Perhaps it takes a little bit longer to sort of warm up. I think make sure you've got your own questions, because I think that always helps, and that helps you to engage back when you've got your own questions, and don't be afraid to sort of ask those throughout the process.
I think it's really important. I've got a friend who has worked in HR for years, and she says the one question she always gives people to ask, and because they're like, I don't know what to ask. So the one question to ask is, ask the people interviewing you, what is it that you like about working for this company? Like, so that you, and also the other thing I would say is know your values. Because even if, as Louise was saying, you might not have the experience, or you might not know if you want to go into marketing or advertising or finance or whatever area you want to go into, but know your values so that you are looking to go and have experience or work in companies that match your values. So for example, I value integrity, and my company values are leadership, connection, and growth. But my leadership is with passion and purpose. Like, I want to work with people and with companies who really have a clear purpose. So what are your values? What do you value? What things do you really, that are really important to you? And ask, you know, most companies have value statements on their websites, so you can find out what that is. And you can go, oh, you say your values are this, this, and this. How did you come to that? Show interest in others is key, and show interest in the company. Be open to finding out. I think that's really key.
Okay. Fran, I'm going to ask you to think back to when you were in school and you were thinking about your career or what you wanted to do, and when you were making those decisions, what would be the one thing, looking back now, one bit of advice that you think would have been helpful to you and in that journey at that time?
Ooh, I knew this question would come up, but I knew it would be so hard. So I don't know why I'm not more prepared for it.
Well, I will also be asking the rest of you, but you'll just have a little bit of time to think about it.
I think I probably would, so this is advice to myself, basically.
Yeah.
I think I would probably tell myself not to worry about getting it wrong, and not to worry about not having everything figured out straight away. Because I think it's safe to say every job that I've had has taught me about what I want to do. And so I don't think, especially getting to where I am now, had I said no to opportunities, or had I kind of changed my attitude to doing things, it would have led to a really different path. And I think even to the extent where, you know, when I was at university, for a little bit, I was working in 2 pubs at the same time as working as a cleaner, and that's nothing to do with advertising, but I still met people through every single one of those jobs who I either still keep in contact with now or helped shape my thinking about my future. So I think it would be, don't get too stressed about not having it figured out. I know a lot of people who are, you know, 30 years into their career and change what they want to do, and that's fine. I think it's a lot more flexible than people think it is, and try and enjoy it, and try and enjoy all the opportunities, and try and keep in touch with people that you meet, because you never know where those connections are going to take you.
Okay, thank you. Judith, what would be your piece of advice be?
Well, my piece of advice for younger me would always be, and this comes from the coaching, and I share this a lot, know what it is you want. And every time you're making a choice about your career or your life, ask, how does this get me one step closer to whatever it is you want? Be open to changing what you want. So know what you want and go for that. Ask yourself that question, take yourself one step further. But what you want doesn't have to be a specific job. It could be a feeling. It could be, you know, it's the classic John Lennon quote of, in school, teacher said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, happy. And she said, I don't think you understand the question. And he came back with something clever, like, I don't think you understand life, or something. Right? So know what you want and ask yourself, how does this get me one step closer to?
Okay.
That's key.
Okay. What about you, Louise? What would be your bit of advice?
I think I would definitely say sort of do what you enjoy. So I think with me, kind of the whole art piece and moving away from that, I think have confidence in yourself and what you enjoy doing and follow that through. Particularly because in the early days, if you don't know what you want to do, I think the best chance is doing what you love, because you're going to do well at that. So I think definitely at a degree level, do what you're passionate about. And then I think it's similar to what Fran said in the context of everyone you meet through your career is someone that can help you later on in your career. And it's amazing how you find yourself back in a room with them 10 years later. It's incredible how you do sort of find yourself seeing these people again. So keep strong relationships and stay in touch with people, because kind of take and make sure you're kind of learning. You can learn so much from these people along the way, and they can be a huge support. And I think believe in yourself and don't be scared, don't be afraid. So if opportunities come up or there's something you really want to do, push yourself, and if you feel a little bit out of your comfort zone, that's probably a good thing, because I think I mentioned it earlier, everyone is learning, no matter how senior the people that you're working with are. It's amazing how much you can teach them as well as they teach you. You're often doing new things together for the first time. So have confidence. It's you don't necessarily need that knowledge. It's about your attitude and your approach to things, because actually you can learn as you go. So be brave and have the confidence to say yes and try new things.
Okay, excellent. And that's a really nice place to leave it. I saw lots of nodding heads when you were saying it's about your attitude and your approach and always learning. So thank you very much for coming along and talking to us today. As I said, this recording will be available on our platform and our YouTube channel. It will probably be on there by tomorrow. So thank you very much for sharing your story and giving us some insight and wisdom on how to get along. And if anybody else would like to join us, we have another career webinar tomorrow that will look at using maths to help you with your career. So thank you, Fran, Judith and Louise. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.